Okay, look, when I prepared this session, I was expecting everybody to be completely new to this session, okay? But from what I see, we have people who are intermediate and some people have 5 years experience, okay? So the question I want to raise with everybody, do we have anybody who never seen it at all? Because this session is geared towards beginners, people who want to reorient the career. Do we have anybody who never done this before at all? Because maybe we need to restructure it a little bit as we go along. Do we have anybody who doesn't know what the account never case? Okay. Okay, I guess we can start. Okay, let me share my screen. That's screen one. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, can everybody see my screen now? Okay, hold on, I lost. Wait a minute, I lost everybody here, so. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending which time zone you're in. Thank you, Victor, for organizing this great event. And thank you for everybody who took the time from their family, from their jobs to attend this great community. This is great community event. It's my pleasure presenting this session to you. So please feel free to record all your questions. We'll address them. In the beginning, I asked if, from what I see here, people have a lot of experience some people have a lot of experience. This presentation is geared more towards the beginners. So if you see that it's too beginner, if it's too simple, let me know. Maybe we can adjust things as we go along. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. So this is this presentation for Dynamic 365 customer service. My name is Igor, and this is how I look at this. That's how I looked about 2 years ago. And I'm independent consultant in Dynamic 365 Power App space. Session objectives is basically to take a look what's the career possibilities, where we stand, to have an overview what is Dynamic 365 customer service, why is it important. We'll look at the overview of the app. We'll touch a little bit of integrations. We're not going to give demo of integrations. We will just talk why they're important. We'll have a lot of Q&As. Essentially, the audience, I was expecting, since it's a career orientation, I was expecting somebody completely new to somebody to be completely new to the field, right? Like you really new, you want to change your career, you want to go to IT. And I would say it's the great idea to make a career change right now. And the current situation with the virus, I think, showed us how important to have a good career that allows you to work part-time, that allows you to work from home. So I think it's a great investment. I think you would not regret this career choice. And the community is the most outstanding. So if you decide to be part of the community, it's a great positive experience for the rest of your life. Okay, so Let's take a look at the next slide. Okay, so career in statistics. If you work in this field, you know about Nigel Frank, right? They are the recruiters. And sorry for people who attended the previous session, I have no choice but to overlap my previous presentation because all my presentation is independent from one to the other. So you might have to listen to the same thing again. So every year they compile the statistics for the career, okay? Where we stand, where we're going, what experience we have. And there are a couple of things that I think that are noteworthy here. When you look how long you've been at work, so about 16% have 1 to 5 years work experience, right? And how long you've been working with Dynamics. So some people have, 5% people have less than a year, and 25% have 1 to 3 years experience, right? So all in all, you look at about 30% of people who work with Dynamics are juniors, okay? So just by looking at the statistics, if you're a beginner, you should find it very encouraging. If you look at the experience with Microsoft product, right? You have 59% who have experience with Office 365. And what I find noteworthy again is the experience with a SQL Server, 54%, okay? I myself come from this background with the SQL Server, and I think if you master the database technology, business application should come natural to you, right? Because all this big interface, all these complex scenarios, they actually, it's a layer on top of the database. So once you master the relationship, you master the tables, you understand the entities and their relationship, the fields, types, etc. So SQL Server being very noteworthy. You have Skype for Business, obviously, that's important one. Microsoft Azure, 29%. So very important skills, Power BI. So no matter where you come from, it's like everything is going to be beneficial for your career. For this particular presentation for Dynamic 365 customer service, okay, I think certain things are going to be more important than others. I think everything that has to do with Power BI and SQL Server will be more important than for the sales presentation, okay? Because in my experience, you have to pull more complex reports out of it, and you really have to master the data. I've never seen customer service implementation being done without integration to ERP or any other warehouse management software. So if you want to be professional, that's something to keep in mind. All right, so let's look for the salary statistics for United States and Canada, right? So even from the quick look, you see that you have different roles. Okay, some of them are technical knowledge driven, some of them experience driven, some of them are sales driven, and some of them are support, right? So I think the most junior support and training driven, even those careers, I think, pay significant amount of money and they're very much in demand, right? If you know how to program or you're willing to learn how to program, I think it's going to be extremely beneficial, especially for if you want to deep dive into Dynamic 365 customer service, because like I said, integrations with the other systems is extremely important. Now, but if for some reason you're afraid of doing software development, it's not your thing, please don't be discouraged, because with the advancement of low-code, no-code technologies, there's a lot more things you can do right now, even more that you were able to do before. So if you look, for example, a functional consultant in Canada or United States, right, you can make a very respectable living without touching the line of code. Also, if you choose to be pre-sales consultant, the salaries are even higher, and you don't need to do any kind of software development. Obviously, if you want to become a technical or solution architect, knowing how to code is important. As a solution architect, you probably shouldn't be the best developer in the world, but you should be at least aware what can be done, and you have to choose when you're choosing a no-code customization, when you choose low-code customization, when you actually need to use JavaScript, TypeScript. And other than that, you can become a project manager, IT director, and IT manager. So this is for the slide. So if you come from different countries, Nigel Frank provides statistics for other countries as well. In my opinion, they're somewhat relevant. I would say they're about 10% off, 10% on the higher side, but it should still give you a good. It should still give you a good idea where you're standing. All right, let's go next. Okay, so what is Dynamic 365 Customer Service? Dynamic 365 Customer Service is the model-driven app. And what is a model-driven app? You can see there are other session that's built on top of Common Data Service. So basically, you have Common Data Service is, think of it as a very fancy database, and you have a software layer on top of it that allows you to do a lot of things with no code, low code. All right, so let's go next. So why is it important, right? Why would you use customer service? You would track customer issues through cases, right? And case is the most important entity, I would say, for the customer service. It's important to record all interaction there to the case. You share the information in a knowledge base, so it becomes easier for the next technicians who are there for you. Also, you create queues and route cases to the right channel. Okay, if you have, because usually customer service is used in. The most common scenario is going to be the call center, right? And in the call center, you have a different queues. You have escalation queues for the complex issues. You have escalations for complaints for specific knowledge. You can create and track service level through service level agreements. We have a very powerful service level agreement model. Service level agreement meaning how you're going to be measuring the interaction with the customer. Essentially, when is going to be your first interaction, when you acknowledge the problem, the amount of time it takes you to solve the problem. So often when you sell service to a customer, they expect it to be done within a certain period of time. And they actually often they're even ready to pay premium to be able to, for the things to be fixed within a certain period of time. You can define the service term through entitlements, right? This is probably not something we're going to use in detail. We're not going to look too much in depth, but it shows what are the limitations of your scope, right? Like how many cases you're allowed to open for this customer, right? How many products you're allowed to transfer. You can manage the productivity of your performance and productivity through reports and dashboards, and you can also create schedules for this. And obviously, everything is available everywhere on any device. So the next logical question would be, what is the adoption of 365 customer service? So on the next slide, customer service is being used by these companies. This is the official information from the Microsoft website. So you can see you have very serious companies that you have very serious companies who use Dynamic 365 for customer service to manage their service operations. All right, so very important entities that we have. Okay, something you need to be aware. The first thing you have is your activities. And I think we're going to skip it. Well, not going to skip it. We're going to go faster since we have a lot of people who are already familiar. Activities like phone calls, like emails, the appointments you have. You have accounts and contacts. You have cases, queues, and knowledge articles. Granted, there are others, but I think they're the most important cases that you need to understand and master how it works. So let's look at the slides quickly, and then we jump into the actual presentation. So activities, that's interaction between the business and its customer, and consider important, okay? From the sales implementations, I found that sales people do not often record all their activities, although they should, but they don't do. But in customer service, I find that pretty much all the contracts I've done, they record all of them religiously, right? Any communication that goes to from customers must be recorded using those activities. Account. It's an important distinction between accounts and contacts. An account represents a company, organization, or group of people. Usually, it's a business, okay? And you can capture information. You can capture information about this business that we're going to see in a second. And you have contacts. Contacts represent a person. It's the person, like in the Outlook, you send an email to. And this is the person. So one account can have multiple contacts associated with that account. Now let's go next. Cases. Okay, this is how the case looks like. Case, it's a fundamental record type for service management and represent single incident of the requested service. So you have different channels for this. So any interactions with a customer that happens, and this is where you record it. Any demand, any complaint, any feature request, you record it in the case, and the case is linked to the could be linked to the either account or a contact. In 99% of the cases that I've seen, it would be an account. It would rarely be a contact. Okay, so the queues, it's a place to organize and store activities and cases that are waiting to be processed. Okay, this is the queue items. That's for anything for special, right? So often when you call somebody, you speak to the level 1 support. Level 1 supports, you complain because they cannot solve your problem, and they tell you, I'm going to escalate it to my manager, and my manager will give you a call. Well, this is exactly what's happening, right? It's often what would happen. They would escalate it to the level 2, and hopefully manager will call you one day, right? But it can be much more complicated. They can it can be level 2 support. It can be specialized knowledge, etc. So let's look at the interface itself. Let's see how it looks like. So just like most dynamic application, you have your dashboards and filters. You have multiple one of them out of the box. You have tier 1, you have tier 2. Everything is completely customizable. You can switch to stream view, or you can have it to the tile view. You have different activities. For example, all your activities that can be either the phone call, the task, can be appointment, letter, etc. So usually the ones that you're going to be using the most are the tasks, emails, and phone calls. So every time you make a phone call to the customer, you will need to record it. Let's quickly look at the account. And account information, you're going to have your account name, you're going to have the phone number, basically everything you need to identify the business partner you're dealing with. You will have related contacts to this account. You would have details. industry, ownership, etc. The contact preferences could be very important. How you decide to connect with the customer. Now, if in Dynamic 365 for sales, accounts would be created often would be created for, okay, sorry, I think I have a request to zoom in a little bit. Give me a second. Is that better? Okay, no problem. So if for Dynamic 365 for sales, okay, often what would happen, accounts would be created by the salespeople, right? They would be converted from leads to the opportunity. Opportunity creates the account. In the case of customer service, I personally never seen service creating their own accounts, right? Usually you provide the service for somebody often you would create an account for somebody you sold to previously, right? So you would either have it inside CRM or you would pull the information from the ERP system, right? So there would be some kind of a link between the two, right? Because every time you create a case, you don't know what you want to be sure that you're providing service for somebody you sold to, right? So it's rarely going to be out of the box. Okay, so the contacts is going to be the one that's where we record information about a person who works in who most of the time will work in a given account in the business partner. All right, so let's look at the bread and butter of Dynamics 365 customer service. So let's look at the case. So when you create a case, you will have a default view with all of your active cases. You can have it in the chart mode as well, and you can see the priority, the origin, the customer, the status reason on it, and where they stayed on this. So you'll be able to filter it. You'll be able to add remove fields to this view. This is a part of the customizations. That's not a part of this session, but if you want more information, feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or any other social media. It will be a pleasure to help you. So also to let you know, from this view, you're able to select one or multiple cases. You'll be able to associate child cases. You'll be able to merge them. You'll be able to apply the routing rule we'll see in a second, or you'll be able to assign all bunch of them to the queue, right? This feature, I find that not many people use it, but once they know they exist, they love it, right? So because you don't have to go inside each case and apply those actions, right? You can select them from the grid and do it all in one shot. So let's create a new case. Okay, so first thing we're going to give it a title. It's going to be my first case. What you have here, you have something called subject. I think this is the great feature. It allows you to have predefined. It allows you to give predefined filtering possibilities for your case, right? Because often when users call, they call for things they repeat themselves, right? They call a password reset. So if it's going to be password reset, you don't want to go type password reset, right? You want to be able to put in the subject what they want, and it's very easy to filter. So from here, you can find the customer that's related to it. Origin. This is very important and becomes more and more important as time goes by. If before Dynamic 365 customer service was used only by the call center, right now you have phone, email, web, Facebook, Twitter. You can have different origin. You can have You can have other origins, and often what happens based on the origins, it would be routed to the different queue. So let's say the origin was phone. Often you always select the product that was in question. Don't have to, but you could. And once this is done, you can say save. When we look at the details, you can give it additional specification, right? It can be question, problem, request, and of course you can have your own fields here as well. Pretty much everywhere I worked, you had a certain case hierarchy, right? You would have one big problem, and you would need to have a parent-child relationship to it, right? So you would link a parent case to the other cases that could be relevant. All right, you have case relationship. This is where if you need to merge them, you have children cases and what's going to be associated knowledge records. Okay, here on top, what you have, it's the standard suggested procedure, business process flow of how would you go about completing the service request, right? You would find the customer, you would find the contact associated with this customer. We would go to the next stage. You would assign it to others if necessary. Then you can go to the next stage, and you would finish, right? You could resolve it, or I'll cancel the case. So, for example, what happens if you cancel the case? Yeah, you're able to set a different status to this. You can either merge it or set it to cancel. So you would confirm as canceled. So here it will give you the timestamp of when exactly it happened. Gives you the status of the call is canceled. What you can also do, you can reactivate this case if you see that it was done by mistake. Reopen it, and let's say if you resolve the case, you can click on resolve. You would always have to put the resolution. If it's a red asterisk, it's a mandatory field. Let's say problem solved. And you set a billable time of 30 minutes, and you can subsequently invoice the customer. So this is the very basic interactions to the case. Now, what are the things you can do in the real life, right? Like in the real life, it would never be that simple. So let's see what we can do with this. So the first thing for the examples, I want to do the following. So let's create a new queue for Facebook support, right? After this, we want to create a new subject called password reset. I would like to be able to create a routing rule that would route the case origin for Facebook to the Facebook support queue. We'll set an SLA, service level agreement, for all the cases originated by the Facebook request, and we'll also create a knowledge article for it. Okay. So let's go to the cases. Queue. Okay. So we'll create a new queue. Call it Facebook support. Just make it a private queue. Just to save. Okay. Okay, so right now what happened, we created the queue for Facebook support requests, right? What do we see here? We have the name of the queue, we see the private, so we can add members to it. And the queue items, this is what happens when you assign an item to the queue. All the items that were assigned to this queue would appear in there. So let's try to create a case. Open the case. New case. Facebook for, let's say, this guy. We'll do save. Okay. So the first thing we can do, we can add it manually to the queue. So if we, let's say, press queue item details, let's say there is no record added to this queue. So, but if you add to the queue, you can say Facebook support. You would say add. And then you would, and right now this item is actually added to the queue. So when you look at the queue item details, you will see the Facebook support request, that our case is in this queue. At this point, if you look at the queue, we would see our case in here. So somebody who monitors it, they can select. Somebody can pick it, release it, remove it, or see extra details, right? So you're able to assign the person to work on this queue for you. Now, let's go back to the case. Facebook support request. So if you have any items, if you have any questions for the queues, please put it in the chat and we'll look at it. Okay, so if you want to manage the service, right? A lot of things is managed from the settings and the service management. So the next thing I want to do, I want to add a new subject for the password reset. So we can look at subjects. And my dynamics is a bit slow today, so please bear with me. Okay, while it's thinking here. Okay, because here, if you remember in your case, you have the subject, right? We want to put a query information and of how to reset a password. So we can go to query information. We can add a subject. You can put FB password reset. And oops, sorry. Go here, 5. Information, Facebook password reset, right? So if you have this recurring request, the call center agent will be able just to place it here, and they will see they need to reset. Okay, so let's look at something else. Let's look at the routing rules, right? How would you you would like to route automatically the cases that have their origin Facebook to be routed automatically to you want it to be routed automatically to the Facebook support, right? Okay, let's go. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Sorry, I promise it's never that slow. I promise I cleared my cache and cookies before the meeting, so. All right, so we have our service management rule item, so we'll add. Okay, bear with me. Okay, while it's thinking, I could take a look at the question. I have a quick question regarding email integration with the customer service. Okay, Jay, connect to me on LinkedIn. We'll talk about how to integrate email. Okay, there are great resources for it. I can point you the right directions. Okay, while we're waiting for to load, is there any other questions I can answer immediately? Okay, so looks like it's being stuck here a little bit. So let me see if I can go back. Okay, sorry it took so long. We'll take a look at the one that's already existent. So. Okay. Okay, we need to. Okay, so right now this the setting is active, right? So we will need to deactivate it to be able to make any changes to it. Sorry about that. That was a little bit unexpected. Okay, so this is how you would set. This is how you would set. This is how you would set the rules, right? So let's say let's call it if Facebook. If origin is equal to Facebook, is equal to Facebook. Move it to the queue. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Let me see if there's what's going on. Okay, Facebook support. Do save and close. Okay, now this is very important when you work with them because many things needs to be activated. Let's say you've done some modifications, you've done something and it doesn't work. It's usually because you forgot to activate. I know that happens to me all the time. Okay. So normally right now, everything should work. So if its origin is Facebook, let's just sorry. To Q. Let's say it was in Q. Let's say it's here. So if origin is Facebook and I do save and route, save and route. So normally if I look at it, Facebook support request, it would be in the queue Facebook support request, right? Because that's the one, because that's the one we specified in the routing rules. So another important thing that we need to take a look is service level agreement for any cases that are originated. So service management. Look at the service level agreements. So we'll try to use the existing one. That's one that's okay. So, okay, let me look at the question while it's loading. That's create a flow for the routing keys instead of using routing rules. Yoni, yes, I personally never seen, I've never done the flow, but I really don't see why it would not be possible. Yes, you should be able to create a flow for this. Okay, so let's look at default SLA for all cases. Like I wanted to create a new one, but since the system is slow, I'm afraid to do it because because it might not work. Okay, so you have different types of SLAs, right? You have, when you look at the entity case, you look at when it's created on, you can choose a default calendar that's available to you. You have different SLA types. You have enhanced and standard. And I personally never seen the standard used, and I think it's being deprecated, right? You should always use enhanced SLAs, right? What it allows you to do, it allows you to pause and resume, right? For example, let's say you promised a customer to solve his problem you promise to resolve it in 1 day, right? But you cannot reach the customer. The time you cannot reach the customer, it should not be counting toward. It should not be counted towards your SLAs, right? So in order to create the details for the SLAs, you will double click. Here. It's taking time. I promised it was fast earlier this morning. Okay, let's look at the SLA we have. So let's say SLA KPI, it's something we want to resolve by. It's applicable. You can set when it's applicable. So let's say it's for the case when the origin, let's say, is equals to Facebook. Your success criteria, it's going to be when the case status is resolved. Success action, you can send an email. You can send email, you can create a record, you can update the record. Usually you would create an email. You would have your default interface with that. Create new message, you'll be able to set properties. And your standard email form would appear in here. So you would have okay, let's say for the subject, you can have all the fields that are available for a case and related to case information, so you can create it. SLA failure, let's say it's after 5 minutes, you're able to have different parameters. You can type them in here. And for the failure action as well, you probably want to notify somebody about it. And you can send a warning message once the SLA is approaching. So you would do save and close. And you have to make sure you activate the SLA. All right. Okay, well, is thinking, Marc Tremblay, what's your approach to cases that relate to multiple products, custom? Honestly, I would prefer to create multiple cases in every time I had to do it, but it probably has to do with your business. It has to do with your business specification. But for me, I always find it's easier to manage when you have one case for one product. You can relate the cases. There's always a way to relate it, but I find when it have multiple products, it becomes confusing. But that's a personal approach. Okay, so now we have an active SLA. So I want to create a case. New case. Case title. Test. Customer is equal to this. Origin is Facebook. Sorry, I made a mistake somewhere, because normally if the SLA should appear in here with a timer. So So something I did not do correctly. Probably was it activated? Set as default. Okay, let's say set as default. I just set it as default just to be able to see it. New case. This away. This away. Origin Facebook. All right. So basically, this is you will have the SLA timer counting here, how much time you have towards your resolution. So if you don't do anything for the next 5 minutes, it will turn red and will indicate to us that that the SLA was violated and would specify any actions. It will specify any actions that. It will specify any actions that we need to do in order to solve it. So the last thing I want to show you is to show the knowledge articles. This is very important and very helpful for the technicians. So, for example, let's look at this one. You want to do Gmail password reset, right? I'm afraid to start a new one because the system is slow. We just look at the existing one. So you'll be able to put the keywords, and as the type keywords, you would have instruction of how to solve the particular issue, right? The knowledge articles, they're actually very powerful. You have a lot of things you can do with them. You can do minor and major versions. You can have them approved. It's a whole it's a whole lecture in itself, right? So, and you can attach this knowledge article to your cases. So let's say you look at a Facebook support, and the knowledge article is here. And what it does, it picks up my case title and suggests a knowledge-based article accordingly. So let's say if I type Gmail in my case title, it will give me information of how do the Gmail password reset. So I would be able to open it and see the details of how to do it. All right, we don't have much time, so if you want to know more about it, about Dynamics 365 customer service, I think the best place is Microsoft Learn. It's I know Microsoft is working very hard to have all the information there. It's an amazing platform. They have amazing courses there. You can follow everything step by step. You have a lot of great content in YouTube, Udemy, and you have a lot of Dynamics 365 community events. And for more technical information, there is the customer service overview, the official Microsoft support team, official Microsoft help sessions. All right, this is it. So let's take 2 minutes to look at the Q&A. What do we have for Q&A and the recommendation for?
Hello, Igor. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, any recommendation for phone integration, right? That's the only question I think we have outstanding.
No, we have 2 other ones. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. This is Vicky Rogers. I was the moderator for the session. So I have two questions that are other in Q&A. Did you answer the telephone one?
Telephone, no. Actually, truth be told, the only one I have experience with, it's Ring Central. That's the only, in my implementation, that's the only one I used so far, that I personally used. I've seen others, but Ring Central works reasonably well. The only issue that I have, and this is something they're not going to tell you inside the documentation, once you create a phone call activities, hold on, like I actually have to show this one because it's important. When you're on cases, right? Here you would have integration to your phone system. And what happens when you make a call, it automatically creates a phone call record here, right? Phone call record. It's created automatically by Ring Central. This place, hold on, let me just save it and close to test. A phone call, when I open the activity, the regarding field, right? This is how it links to case. It does not work well with, it doesn't automatically populate it, right? If you choose this, you have an issue, reached out to me in LinkedIn, we've created a flow to go around it, okay? But that's the only one I have experience with, okay? Okay, what are the other questions?
Okay, so I have another question from Jay again, which is, what are the best practices regarding email integration in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for customer service?
To my knowledge, it still should be service synchronization, right? If you want, I can send you. Unfortunately, I have another session in about 2 minutes. So Jay, please reach out to me. We're gonna look at it together. Okay, please connect me to LinkedIn. We'll go for the email integration, or we'll look at the email integration scenario. Because unfortunately, I have another field service session starting in 2 minutes. So this is going to be a bit long to discuss. Do we have anything else?
Yes, we do have another question from Anand. So Anand says, I believe these configuration changes needs to be done in each system, UAT, production, sandbox, etc. Is there any workaround?
I think depends which ones. Depends which ones. Some of them. I think I also have to reach out to me. We'll look at it case by case, because there's certain things certain things are considered to be personalization things, so they're not part of the solution. So we need to see case by case what do you mean by this and what exactly you can put part of the solution. Another way to go around it is to have a flow. You can put it inside the solution. If it could make it easier to go from the environment to the environment, or other things you can do. You can have your custom workflow or plugin. So this can go from the environment to the environment. So let me know what exactly you have in mind. We'll look at it case by case, because we've seen many things. We've seen many things, so we'll see what exactly goes to the solution. All right. So unfortunately, like I said, I have another session starting at 2 for field service. So unfortunately, I need to cut it short. I want to thank everybody who assisted the session. Hope you like it. If you want to have more information, please feel free to connect. Vicky, thank you very much for your support. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you soon.